Hello, beautiful creative souls, and welcome back to another episode of Chakra Care for the Creative Soul. Today's topic is a unique one. I'm going to be talking about self-care fatigue and why conventional self-care will only take us so far in 2025. And that's a lot maybe to kind of breathe in and take in. And I'm going to unpack it because it may not even make sense. To be honest, when I received the inspiration for the topic of this show, I needed to sit with it a little bit too. And yet I felt so strongly guided to use those words. Hello, my name is Pollyanna Blanco, and I'll be your host today. I'm a sacred self care coach, a transformational teacher, and a creative midwife, and an energy healing practitioner with 20 years of experience who has been on this inner awakening um, spiritual path for many decades now. And I'm so honored and grateful to be here with those of you either watching live or on the replay, just to be able to be here and to share the inspiration that flows through me and offer it to you. Again, only take what resonates with and for you and leave the rest. So today, self-care. Self-care fatigue. There are a couple of terms I'm going to be tossing out today that Spirit's guided me to use that I've never used before. And the first one is self-care fatigue. So hand on heart, deep breath in and out. Just noticing how that lands. For me, when those words came through, self-care fatigue, first I had the title, Why Conventional Self-Care Will Only Take Us So Far in 2025. And then when I heard self-care fatigue, I was like, well, what's that about? Where's that where's that leading us to? And when I sat with it, what has emerged that I feel guided to share with all of you today is that what we're all being invited into in 2025, like we never have been before. I mean, this isn't new. We've been doing it for thousands of years. It's just right now at this particular moment on Earth, with our experience of time shifting, with so many rapid shifts and changes, and so much coming up for healing, growth, and expansion in our outer worlds and in our inner worlds. There is a gulf that we're all being invited to bridge. And the first of those gulfs is that between our doing and our mindset. There's another one I'm going to get to a little later on in the show. But first, I want to sort of guide you through, as I was shown, what this all means so that it makes hopefully some sort of sense to you too. So, for example, and I'm going to circle back to self-care fatigue, because you think, well, like I maybe did at the beginning, how can you be tired from caring for yourself? It seems sort of like a paradox, right? And yet there's something in that. And in order to more fully express that, I'm going to invite you to track with me as I share with you why conventional self-care will only take us so far in 2025 first, because that's the way all of this came in for me too. A lot of conventional self-care, and again, it's neither good nor bad. It is, and everything is a bridge ultimately. And if it works for you in any given moment, then do it. All I'm trying to say here, I'm not here to say do this and don't do that, or this works better than that. No, I'm not here to say anything even remotely like that. I'm just here to sort of reveal a bigger picture that's been shown to me. And that is that conventional self-care, the approach to it is often, what can you do? I can go for a walk in nature. I can take a salt bath. I can go do a yoga class. I can sit and meditate. It's it's about an action you take. And obviously, an action is very helpful, especially if it's one that's aligned with your intention to care for yourself. So the gulf I'm talking about is that there is a gulf between the activity and the mindset that leads us into the activity. And for example, if I say to myself, I need to do more to take care of myself. I know I need to take care of myself. I'm already busy doing so many things in my life. This looks like another thing I need to add onto my to-do list. And that doesn't feel really enticing. Why? Because we're approaching it as another thing we have to do as opposed to something we get to do. And so this is where the mindset piece comes in. It's actually very subtle. We can miss it so easily. I have for years. And it's something I see mirrored back to me as I've been learning this. And I've been reflecting on it a lot lately through my own journey, that a lot of us believe we need to feel motivated to start a new habit or routine. I recently was working with someone who wanted to start a new protocol. And this protocol, I just know, and she even knows, or she wouldn't have said yes to it, will help her so much. And it is the easiest protocol in the world to start. And it is, something that's actually going to enhance her day. And yet there's that wall of resistance to getting started. Of course, I honor that for her. It's all good. It's all part of the process that her journey is guiding her through, as it has been for me and so many others. And at the same time, what I've noticed when I've felt into the subtle nuances of it, it's the mindset. And so it's the mindset that it's self-care is another thing I have to do. And that's why I often hear, I don't have time to take care of myself. So that's one of the things I want to unpack. In tandem with the mindset piece around self-care is there's also, I've observed this belief that we have about motivation. I need to feel motivated. I don't feel motivated to get started yet. What are we really saying to ourselves when we say, I don't feel motivated? We're actually, at least how I've come to understand it and see it, is we're waiting to receive the feeling of being motivated. But that feeling of being motivated starts with our thoughts, it starts with our mindset. We'll be waiting for a very long time. And some of us know this already because it's been on our bucket list for a long time now. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting to do X, Y, and Z, and it just hasn't happened yet. Why is that? Why have we not received the motivation when we say we know that this is something, hand on heart, that make an enormous difference in our life, that would help us to feel calmer, help us to feel happier, help us to feel more peace, more creative flow in our lives? And so it's because, again, there's a mindset behind that that says, I need to wait for the feeling. And it's true, sometimes we can have the feeling first and then the thought comes, absolutely. However, if you've been waiting for a very long time, it might be worth considering looking at the thoughts behind the waiting for the feeling. So if I were to change my thought to, I get to exercise in the morning, that's something I've been playing with myself, because I noticed a lot of mental resistance to getting up early in the morning, especially on these dark winter days here in Toronto, and exercising, even though I know I feel so good afterwards. So the mindset piece is something that really is a big part of what leads to self-care fatigue. I've even heard, just in my sort of pay attention to what's going on out there in relation to self-care. Some of you know that I've been a classroom visual arts teacher, and I've also taught English and special education and even a little bit of ESL. And I've been doing that for 28 years now. I can't believe 28 years. Time flies, right? And recently, I mean, it's been ever present for me. It's a boot camp for the soul, especially since the pandemic. The um, intensified, amplified needs in the classroom and the weight of expectations that a lot of educators feel that are being placed upon them. And we're generally, as an educator, we're conscientious beings to begin with. You know, we went in there because we saw it as a calling and not just, excuse me, as a job. I'm gonna have a sip of water here. And so it's easy for us to put a lot of pressure on ourselves. It's easy for us to compare ourselves to other people. It's easy for us to get caught in all those rabbit holes and those snares. And I've heard even people, and I know where they're coming from, saying don't weaponize self-care against educators. Like, because, and when I heard that term, at first my ego was like, yeah, don't weaponize self-care against educators because we're doing so much already out of the goodness of our hearts, trying to help our students get some traction when they land in our, high school classes and they can't read, they're illiterate. What's happened? What went sideways? How did this come to be? And what in me invited this to be? And of course, at first it felt like, yeah, you're hearing me. You're hearing all the challenges that I face every day in the classroom. And don't tell me there's another thing I'm not doing that I should be doing. And then when my ego mind calmed down from receiving all that, and I just share that with you as a mirror because I think we've all been there before where it's like, don't tell me I'm already, oftentimes when we most need to care for ourselves is when we're doing the most. And when hearing that we also need to care for ourselves feels like another thing we need to add onto our to-do list. And so it can really start to feel like, wait a second. And that wait a second, that pause invited me to notice the mindset. The mindset is, again, that self care is something that is an activity, another thing I have to do. And this is where I'm going to loop back to the fatigue because if we see self care and a lot of conventional self care, when we're offered it, maybe it's in your workplace. Maybe you're reading about it online. Maybe someone who cares about you in your life and sees that you're a little stressed out says, why don't you do X, Y, and Z to care for yourself? On a very human level, there can be some pushback, there can be some resistance for all the reasons I just mentioned. It feels like another thing I have to do. I'm already exhausted. I'm already stressed. You're telling me I'm not doing enough, and all the life scripts come in and all the inner aspects. It becomes like a rowdy spring break party, from the inner critic to the perfectionist to the saboteur, you name it, they're all there at the table and they're rocking it. And so that's where, you start to hear terms like don't weaponize self-care against these people because it just is the perception of it. So, where I want to go from here with this topic, hopefully it's making some sort of sense right now. Thank you for tracking with me. And I invite you, if you're watching this live, I'm not sure if there's anyone in the studio watching live, but if you are, I invite you to share if you can relate to any of that. And if you're watching on the replay, I invite you to drop a comment below. Your comments and shares really help me to know how I can serve you in upcoming shows and how I can, offer you some inspiration, some hope, some guidance. The conventional approach to self-care, as I've been sharing, is oftentimes action-oriented. And I'm not saying that those actions aren't valuable and have a wonderful role to play in all of this. What I am saying is that when only approached from this mindset, we're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And the piece of the puzzle that we're missing is what I want to call the spirit set. First, we need to get the mindset on our radar screen. What are the thoughts I'm thinking that are keeping me stuck in this woulda, coulda, shoulda pain loop that is adding more pressure and expectation and disappointment and frustration into the mix. And that is not good self-care. When we can start to get our mind on board, when we can, and what I mean by that is when we can start to notice, like, and I'm going to use the everyday example of myself. Dark mornings, sun doesn't come up really early in the morning as it did at a different point in the year. Cozy in bed when it's minus 22 with wind chill out first thing in the morning. Do I get out of bed or do I sleep longer? The thoughts that are running through my mind, let me tell you, that bed is the most inviting place to stay 10 times more than throwing on my exercise gear and getting going. And so many times the thought, I'm too tired, I need more rest, ran the show. That's where I was taking my decisions from. I'll wait until I feel like it was another thought that drove my choices. When I reflected on that and I looked at, it has nothing to do with how dark it is outside. It has nothing to do with whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. And those circumstances are just a fact. When I was able to start to notice my thoughts were creating a certain feeling in me, and those feelings were then, moving me to take a certain action, which wasn't leading to what I said was important to me. That's when I started to recognize, well, what if I chose the thought, I'm getting to bed early tonight, and actually followed through on that because it felt good? What if I then said, I'm so excited that I get to exercise tomorrow morning, to have that spaciousness, that time to myself, to be connected to myself first thing in the morning? I know that might sound like a stretch, and some days I had to take it a lot slower than that. I couldn't go from, I don't want to get out of bed to, I'm so excited to get out of bed. I would need to kind of take more baby steps to get there. However, I can say that it has been helping and it has been working. So, what do I mean when I say spirit set? I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about spirit set. There's so many people talking about mindset because I feel that mindset is, bar none, for us as human beings on this planet, the biggest gulf to bridge. When we realize, and a lot of us here already do, that our thoughts influence our emotions, and our emotions influence our choices, and our choices influence our actions. And if we're not getting, aligned results or aligned experiences, it's because there's a disconnect somewhere. So the spirit set that I feel guided to unpack a little bit here as we, wind down to the end of the show is that once you can start to notice what you're noticing when it comes to your thoughts. So say you have a experience that doesn't go like you wanted, like you stay in bed when you really thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to get up and exercise? And you can rewind the tapes in your mind and figure out what thoughts you were thinking and how that made you feel and unwind that a little bit for yourself. Then what happens from there is we start to take aligned actions that also have aligned and matching thoughts and feelings, emotions with them. So, what that offers us when we practice it consistently, and by consistently too, I don't mean that we never have a day where something comes up and we, miss a day of exercise or needed to deal with something and was up later than planned and made sleep the priority before the exercise. That's okay. It's just the consistency of having the intention, taking the action, recognizing when there's some backsliding, having compassion for ourselves, not judging ourselves, and then continuing to move forward. And so when we do this, consistently, when we're committed to noticing what we're noticing, this is where self-care starts to open up onto a different trajectory. One that's not only just about the actions. The gulf that we're bridging is the mindset and the actions. And then as we start getting more consistent and noticing that, then another thing that we can start to notice is that it frees up a lot of energy. That self-care fatigue we had, the self-guilt, the self-shame, the pressure, the woulda, coulda, shouldas in our mind, what an energy drainer that is. That starts to dissolve and fall away. Not only are we receiving the benefits from taking aligned actions and positive choices, now what we're also experiencing is inner spaciousness, mental spaciousness, emotional spaciousness. Our lives are being simplified. I can remember years ago when my mom was, I don't know, I'd have to ask her again what prompted her to put this on the kitchen cabinet. But I remember she had this reminder note to herself. I know at that point, I think my brother and I were in high school, and she was also working as an editor on a literary magazine, and she was writing her own poetry, and she was teaching night school classes at the university and in the district. And she put these words up on, so she was juggling a lot of things. In all fairness, she was also one of the first people I ever knew to do an online um, course. It was a poetry tutorial course, long before anyone did courses online. She was like a pioneer that way. And I remember she had these three words on the kitchen cabinet: simplify, simplify, simplify. And that I saw that every day, for quite a phase of my life in my teens. And I feel like that's been ingrained and burned into my mind as well too. And as I share all of this with you, it's this piece about when we create the mental spaciousness, which is really the big one. When we get out this, we clean out the clutter, the noise of, because neuroscientists say too that making decisions uses up so much of our energy. And I'm just gonna, do a little disclaimer here as I move forward with the spirit set that I've been unpacking for you, and just add this little juicy tidbit in. If you are waking up every morning wondering if you're going to exercise, wondering if you're going to meditate, wondering if you're going to do anything to care for yourself at all, you're already draining your energy. We use up so much energy trying to make decisions that what a lot of neuroscientists say, and the neuroscientist I learned this from, I've got to give her a shout out. It's Tara Swart. She's from the UK. I was listening to one of her audiobooks and it really blew my mind. I thought, okay, this makes sense. Take the decision, set the intention before you go to bed. Take the aligned action, whether it's getting to bed earlier, listening to your body, knowing my body needs these days 8 to 8.5 hours of sleep to feel truly rested. And I realize that's non-negotiable. My body will get it from me one way, shape, form, or another. So I might as well cooperate and collaborate with it. So, when we create that mental spaciousness, when we're clear, when we take that consistent, committed action and also have the thoughts to match it, then we create this spaciousness. And within that spaciousness, something also emerges with our self-care. And this is what is so much different than conventional care, which is only focused on the actions, the doing, and what have we done. Not what are we thinking about what we're doing. And definitely what we open up here is, how are we connecting with ourselves through the experience of the doing? How are we noticing our body? How are we noticing our emotions? How are we noticing our thoughts from a place of curiosity, from a place of wonder, from a place of openness? And we literally begin to move into a space where because we're feeling aligned, because we're feeling present, because we're the noise has been dialed down, we also then receive the beautiful gift of being able to tap in, tune into, dial up, get online with the divine, hear our highest guidance, strengthen our intuition, listen to our body's instincts, and then take more aligned actions and have more thoughts and emotions that match those as well too. See how this picture is unfolding and expressing here? This is what I felt so strongly guided to share with all of you today. This is what's been ever present and emerging for me on my continuous inner awakening expansion journey. And I hope it serves you well. I hope in sharing this that there's someone out there today that really needed to hear some or all of what I shared with you today. It came through me to you. You know, right now, each moment, each step of the way, how you're showing up for yourself matters, because in each moment is the next choice, the next step, the next thought, the next feeling, the next openness you're going to have to receiving everything that's available for you to help you to grow and to become the fullest expression of who you truly are, and really to remember who you are. When there's inner spaciousness, when there's aligned action, when we realize we're the creators, the co-creators of our motivation, of our experience, we curate it. And again, we do this from a place of love, from a place of acceptance, compassion, non-judgment. Then that's where the source of our power lies. This is when we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, and we remember and we embody who we truly are as souls and spirits in this cosmic jumpsuit, walking the earth and linking arms with other beautiful souls, creative souls doing the same. And that's when all the outer noise becomes an opportunity to create even more, something even better, something even more aligned. Everything is interconnected. So how could it be any other way? We are the way. Conscious self-care is the way. And I'm going to just take a really quick peek over here just to see if there's anyone here. There isn't. That's all right. If anything I've shared with you has struck a chord in you, has helped you, has offered you an aha moment, please drop a comment below in the replay. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to know how I can continue to serve you on your journey. May 2025 be the most beautiful year yet in your life. May you remember who you truly are, and may you live an inspired, creative, expansive experience of being in this world so that you can continue shining your light bright, because the world needs you as much as you need you more than ever right now. Lots of love and light. Be well.